We held the funerals yesterday, and today I couldn't cope with work, so I started the mural at the homeless shelter. I designed the sign and sent it off last night to my manufacturer. So when I walked into work to find everything handled, and for once the sky showed no sign of rain, I got a head start on the mural on either side of the door leading into the old school. I had 2 days until the council meeting, and 2 days after that, I had the challenge for my father's PAC. I was a little nervous about exactly what it was I was getting myself into with his PAC, especially if it was bankrupt like Ava believed. Yet if I could restore a hotel to its former glory, I had no doubts I could dig them out of the hole my father dug. I forgot how much I enjoyed drawing and painting, though the old rendered brickwork was making it AB*TCH to stencil out the design with my paintbrush. I had done the background white like a canvas, though standing on a ladder while it was windy wasn't ideal. Hearing a car pull up along the road behind me, I glance over my shoulder to see Valen's car. He hops out, walking over to me. "Everly, the wind is hectic today. Get down before you fall off," Valen scolds, coming over and holding the ladder. I shake my head but climb down, unclipping the harness as I reach each step on the ladder. "I have a harness," I tell him, but he shakes his head. "Harness won't do much if that unhooks from up top. It's only hooked to the guttering. That's not the sturdiest thing, especially those old crumbling ones. It would be best if you had told me you were doing such a gigantic mural. I would have had a cherry picker brought over. Don't use the ladder. I will get one sent over tomorrow," Valen scolds, and I shake my head. He had a point though, and the site supervisor also gave me a lecture about the same thing, making me wonder if he called Valen. "The site supervisor called you, didn't he?" I tell Valen, and he smirks. "Of course," he says, and I roll my eyes. "I thought you had your meeting today with your father over PAC business?" His eyes darken slightly, and he sighs. "I sent my accountant instead," he says while bending down to help pick up my supplies. I pack them into a box and put them in the cleaning closet just inside the school doors. "You can't just avoid your father," I tell him, following him out to his car. "Unless it has something to do about Valerian. I don't want to hear it," Valen growls, opening the driver's door. "Valen, he is your father, and he is a wonderful dad," I tell him. "He lied to me," Valen states. I sigh, climbing into the car. "Your mother wouldn't want you to toss your father away. He F***CK**D*P, but he is trying to make up for it. The petition got pushed through by him. He drops everything he is doing whenever we need his help with Valerian," I tell him, and he starts the car, nodding his head. We head to school to pick Valerian up. When the bell rang, he came running out excitedly, jumping up and down to show the painting he had done.
"Wow,"
Valen says, looking at it. Casey came over to show us her painting, which was covered with glitter and swirling scribble. Valerian, however, was all straight lines of paint that looked like he used a ruler to make sure he didn't go out of the lines. I smiled down at him, and he grabbed his father's hand as we crossed the road to the car. Once in the car, we headed home while listening to the radio talking about the upcoming council meeting. It appears war is brewing between Nixon and Valen. Alpha Nixon was spotted today leaving the council chambers in a rage after learning Alpha Valen's mate, Everly Summers, the infamous disgraced daughter of Alpha John from Shadowpack, petitioned to have the laws involving the unfair treatment of rogues changed. Alpha Nixon refused to speak to the media today after he was spotted in an argument with Alpha John just in the front of the council chambers before reversing into Alpha John's car. It appears tensions among the packs are high, and in the next few weeks, we will either see change within the city or war. Valen turns the radio off, glancing at me, and I sigh. Great, the media was going to blow this right up, and if there wasn't a war, they would ensure one starts with the hysteria they would cause. Would the city really go to war over Mum's petition? Valerian asks, and Valen glances in the mirror at him. Hopefully not, but unfortunately, people don't like change. Greed and entitlement start a lot of issues, Valen tells him. But rogues have nothing. They aren't even allowed to own housing, Valerian says, and that is why your mother is petitioning to have the laws changed. So, Alpha Nixon wants to take more from the rogues when they already have nothing. What's left to take? Valerian asks. Their lives, that is all that's left, and people like Nixon think they deserve to play God and dictate how people should live and what laws they should live by, I answered with a sigh. But isn't your dad on his side? He is on the wrong side, I agreed. Does that upset you? Valerian asks, and I look at him over my shoulder. No, because that shows his character, not mine, I tell him. But you're his daughter? Yes, that's true, but I am not my father or my mother. I am my own person, just like you are your own person, I tell him. So, I shouldn't be like you, or Dad, when I am older. He asks.
"No."
Strive to be better, surpass us. One day be a better alpha than me, Valen says. What if I don't want to be an alpha? Valerian asks. Then I will find someone else to take over the pack. What if I want to be Luna like Mum? Valerian asks. Then you will be Luna Valerian, Valen chuckles. Doesn't sound very cool, no offense, Mum. I think I will stick with Alpha Valerian, Valerian says, and Valen snickers. What? The Luna is more important than the Alpha, Valerian says. Is that so? Valen asks.
Yep.
The Alpha keeps the Pax in line. The Luna keeps the Alpha in line. Valerian shrugs, and I laugh, glancing at Valen. You think this is funny? Our son just demanded me. Valen chuckles. Alpha's so sensitive, I tell him, patting Valen's shoulder while shaking my head. We headed home, and on the way, I texted Kaylin to come over for dinner. It was time these two had a chat. Kaylin was trying, but Valen had to put in some effort on his end. Dinner was awkward, and Valen and Kaylin only spoke about Valerian until Kaylin helped Valen do the dishes while I sat on the couch with Valerian, watching some kids show while I tried not to listen. Around 8 p.m., Valen got a call and walked outside to take it before returning, saying he had to head out. Kaylin also said he should head home since it was a school night. Valen was gone for hours, and eventually, Valerian went to bed after reading to him and tucking him. I heard my phone ringing in the living room only after I closed the door. Walking out, I noticed the call was from Zoe. I answered it, thinking it was unusual for her to call so late. When I answered and heard her frantic voice, I knew instantly something was wrong, and the sirens in the background made my heart thump in my chest. All the air was S**CK*D from my lungs as her following words left her. Everly, she sobbed into the phone.
Zoe?
What is it?
Can you hear me? She asked. Zoe?
It's gone, Everly. It's gone. She sobbed into the phone. What's gone? The hotel. It spread so fast. You need to get here. She cried before the phone cut out. I tried calling her number again, but all I got was her voicemail. I instantly called Valen's number. Valen POV. I stood awkwardly in the elevator with my father. So, where are you heading off to? He asked. Thanks to Everly, it was bad enough that I had to sit through an awkward dinner. Though I knew she was only thinking about mine and my father's relationship. Yet I couldn't complain to Everly about my problem, so I told him. Going to see Dion. The jeweler? He asked, and I nodded.
Wait.
Are you proposing to Everly? Why else would I be going to see him? Well, it's about bloody time, my father says, and I can't help the tug of my lips. I knew if he had his way, I would have married her the day I met her. So the ring is ready. What sort of ring did you get her? One of Mum's rings. Valerian picked out the stone. I tell him, and my father nods and glances away. He swallows. So you're picking it up? No, there is an issue, so I am stopping over there. Apparently, the engraver isn't working, I tell him. The doors finally open and I step out, heading for my car, wanting to get this over with. I pulled up out of the plaza, walking to Dion's jewelers. He had called, saying there was something wrong with the engraver. What I wasn't expecting was for my father to follow me. He pulled up behind me. What are you doing? Coming to see if I can help? He says, though I know he was trying to spend more time with me. He was always extra clinging when I was upset with him, and this feud of ours had lasted weeks. Though I would be lying if I said I didn't enjoy his company a little. We walked to the jeweler's and knocked on the door. Dion comes over and unlocks it, locking it behind us, and we follow him out to the back of his store. What's wrong with it? I ask him. Dion shrugs, picking up a rag and wiping his forehead, which was covered in sweat from the lights in here. No idea. I've been pulling the D*MN thing apart, but I am a jeweler, not a bloody technician, and the ring holder won't spin, he grumbles. My father shrugs his jacket off before pulling a stool over and sitting in front of the laser machine. They spent hours trying to fix it before deciding it needed some part. Dion then spent a few hours on eBay and various sites trying to find the part for the specific engraver he had, only to tell me shipment would take another 2 weeks on top of the time it would take for the stone to arrive. What is with shipment these days? I growl. I was already impatient to get the ring back, let alone now adding more time. Dion shrugs apologetically. I sigh, knowing it isn't his fault when my father speaks. I can go pick it up? He offers. It's a 4-day drive, I tell him, and he shrugs. Better than waiting. When does the stone arrive? He asks Dion. Hopefully next week. They were able to ship it off on the next flight, so it's arriving early, Dion says. Well, at least something good came of this.
It's settled then.
I will go pick up the part and bring it back here, and you should have your ring earlier than expected, my father tells me. He looks down at Dion's computer, and Dion fills out something about picking it up. My father then jots down the address on a piece of paper. Leaving, my father followed me out, and we walked back to the car. You didn't have to pick it up. I know you are only sucking up, I tell him. Is it working? He chuckled. Kind of, I laugh. We stand there awkwardly when my father hugs me. After I stood there for a second, I wrapped my arms around him. I miss you, son, he says, his voice cracking. I rub his back before he lets go and nods, racing to his car. He leaves before I get in my car. The moment I did, the mind link opened up, and Marcus' voice was in my head. Hey, what's up? You need to get to Mountain View Hotel.
Why?
It's not good, Valen. The whole place is gone. It's just a shell. Excuse me? Someone cut the water off, and the power. We were trying to figure out what was going on when we heard an explosion in the kitchen, an hour after closing, and the entire place went up. Sika. I'm on my way, I tell him. Hearing my phone ringing, I grab it from my jacket pocket. It was Everly. I was about to answer when I saw my father's car come abruptly to a stop at the traffic lights before he turned the car around and drove back towards me on the opposite side of the road. He stops on the opposite side of the road just as I answer Everly's phone call. She was sobbing hysterically, and I told her I was on my way there when she said she was trying to get a hold of my father. He is with me. We are on our way, I tell her before hanging up. Dad winds his window down, and I do the same. Want me to take Valerian? It's all over the radio, he calls. Head to the hotel. Everly is on her way there with him. I call back, and he nods before taking off. I rip a U-turn, following after him. Valen POV. Pulling up at the Mountain View Hotel, fire trucks lined the front of the hotel. Police and flashing lights. It was a total fiasco. I could see Everly's truck and my father parked beside it and getting Valerian out of the car. While Macy stood by the car, my father was quick to get Valerian and waved to Zoe in question, who rushed over with Casey. She thanks him, yet I couldn't see Everly anywhere. The entire building was on fire, flames spewing out the windows that burst from the extreme heat that could be felt from where I parked behind my father on the main road. People were running everywhere, and police and ambulances were also on the scene. I glance around, waving to Zoe, and jog over to her and Marcus. Marcus had a tablet in his hand, and people lined the path, standing at the evacuation point as he finished checking names off. Everyone is accounted for. The fire started in the kitchen. Thankfully, the alarms tripped still from the backup batteries, so no loss of life. Marcus tells me, and I noticed the tablet was a list of who was in the hotel, and where everyone checked off and accounted for but one. Ava was handing out bottled water and checking those Marcus marked off. Where is Everly? I ask. Seeing my father drive off with Casey and Valerian, he honks the horn and I nod to him. Zoe looks around before pointing between two fire trucks. The other buildings? I ask Macy as she comes over. Fine, it was contained in the main building. The apartments out the back and events rooms and storage sheds are fine. Only the main hotel, she answers, and at least that was a relief. I nod, glancing at Everly, who stood in her pink and white cloud pajamas with her back to us. Moving across the large lawn, I head over to her. When I spoke to her, she was hysterical, but now I felt nothing but blistering fiery anger, so hot it would give the inferno in front of us a run for its money. Yet the underlying feeling below, it was pure devastation. This place was as much her baby as Valerian was. This was hers. Coming up behind her, she stared at the flames eating away her village, a village she built. I gripped her shoulders, coming up behind her, but she just stared ahead. I didn't know what to say. There was no comfort I could offer to make this right. I'll rebuild. This is why we have insurance. This is why I have a failsafe. The main thing is no one is hurt. This place can be restored. Lives can't be replaced, she says as I rest my chin on her shoulder and wrap my arms around her. I'm sorry, love, I tell her, and she nods once in acknowledgement of my words, but says nothing else. Media and reporters started lining the streets behind us. Murmurs could be heard. Police taking statements. I wandered off, helping where I could, and so did Everly, organizing buses to take everyone to my hotel that was staying here. Yet when the flames were gone, the place was nothing but a husk of what once was. Everly watched the last fire truck leave, but the media lingered, taking any last-minute scraps they could for their headlines. Bloody vultures. Come on, I tell her, trying to lead her away, but she shakes her head and walks toward the building. I needed to get Valerian to school, so we would have to come back. Yet I had a feeling Everly wasn't leaving anytime soon. They warned me, Everly said, staring up at what's left. The structure was sound, but the place was gutted. Yet despite it all, the building still stood, the brickwork tainted black, the render crumbling and the place hollow. This is because of the petition, because I fought for the rogues, for the city, and this is how they repay me, she growls. They won't stop, will they? She asks, glancing at me. I hang my head, knowing this would be the beginning. What's next, Valen? What would your next move be if you were Nixon? She asks. You think it was Nixon? Who else? She says. Everly? I glance around at the media still lingering, watching curiously when she walks off toward the wreck. Everly POV. The place was destroyed as I stared at my heart and soul burned to charcoal. I stared at the front door of the office. I could picture it like it was yesterday, the night before it poured, and I had all but given up, until I met the woman that sat on a chair with a smoke hanging between her lips by that very door. On a plastic faded chair, the way her eyes looked me up and down with no judgment. Valen comes over to me while I stare at the spot she sat that day, wet from walking, hopeless, and homeless. He rubs my arms from behind me. We should go, Valen whispers. I point to the spot. That is where I met your mother, I tell him. I thought she was one of the people staying here. She had smoke hanging out of her mouth. I chuckle. She offered me a place to stay, a hot meal, and then a job. But she gave me so much more than that, I tell him. This place, Valen says. I shake my head.
Hope.
She gave me hope. Then she gave me a family and then a home. I tell him, looking up at what's left. I point to the room directly above us. That is where I stayed. The next morning I came out to her, calling out to me, her truck loaded with baby stuff for Valerian. There was so much stuff, I sniffled. It takes a village to raise a child. We are going to build our own village. Your mother told me that, and we did. I tell him before stepping through the front door of the office. The glass door all shattered and glass crunched under my feet. The walls black, and some of the floors still smoldered. I walked out the back to my office, which used to be her apartment. Everly, it's not safe. Valen calls out to me while rushing in after me. Yet I didn't care, I had to see if it survived. The safe was fireproof, and it held something more precious than gold. It had my letter. Everything was covered in soot. The room crumbling around me as I fished my keys from my pocket and kneeled next to the safe. Everly, we shouldn't be in here. They haven't cleared the entire place yet, Valen says, but through my tears, I place the key in and twist before pulling it out, and using another key to twist the next lock and the next. The keypad for the digital screen melted, but the manual locks were fine. My heart beat faster when I heard the final lock click. I closed my eyes, gripping the handle, sucking in a shuddering breath, before pulling the door open. Opening it, I found the safe intact. The heat burned the outside good, and it was warm inside. A few things on top were curled and ruined, but as I dug to the bottom, I burst into tears when I saw my envelopes. They were brown from the smoke, but intact. I clutched them to my chest and let out a breath. Thank you, I whispered to no one in particular. If there was a sign that she was still with us, this was it. Because God only knows how many times I had pulled that damn letter from its envelope when I thought I would break. Valen rubs my back, letting me fall apart, yet I couldn't move as I stared at my safe. I have no idea how long I sat there, but Valen had to go grab Valerian's clothes from the apartment, yet I couldn't bring myself to move. This place was a time capsule, as I found every moment of this place flashing through my mind. Her voice was so clear, her memory still alive even though it was now burned rubble. I was leaning against the brown brickwork with my envelope, the one most precious to me. There were so many letters, letters of advice, letters of love. She wrote a new letter every day, each one a detailed report of what we accomplished that day, a reminder of how far we have come. And every day she dropped it in the post box out the front and sent it to her lawyer to hold on to. But one letter meant the most to me, and it was the one I clutched in my hand like it was my lifeline, reminder in case I forgot. One thing about Valerie was that she was unforgettable. I closed my eyes, leaning my head back against the wall, when her voice rings in my ears. You don't need them. They aren't wasting tears on you, so don't waste your tears on them. They don't deserve them, Valerie had once told me. Her voice was on replay, and I savored the sound of the memories she imprinted on me, and it only made me angry that someone would try to take that memory from me, from the rogues. They burn my village, and I will burn the city to the ground. I burn, they will burn with me. Hold on to that anger because sometimes it is the only thing that will keep you going, Valerie had also told me. And I let it fester, needing something to keep going when I heard the crunch of somebody walking into the place. I wipe my tears but sigh when I realize it is only Valen. He crouches in front of me, tipping my chin up to meet his gaze. Where's my girl gone? He whispers, his eyes searching my face. Sitting in the wreck of her village, I tell him. This is not my girl. My girl is Aluna, and chief to her village. My village is gone, I tell him. What happened to you will rebuild. I sighed. I wanted to punch something, scream and fight, yet at the same time I wanted to curl into a ball and die with this place. But he was right. I had a city to burn, and I couldn't do that here, feeling sorry for myself. I nod and he stands and I open the letter, reading the letter. The one thing that kept me going time and time again. Valen stands back, but remains quiet as I skimmed the page. Valerie's words were unmarred and untainted as I stared at them. What's that? Valen asks. A reminder, I tell him. Leaning forward, I grab the others from where they sat and hand them to him. He looks at the hundreds of envelopes. These are all for my mother? He asks and I nod. He holds his hand out for the one piece of paper written in her immaculate handwriting, the one letter that means the most to me. It was the shortest of all the letters she wrote. The others were a detailed day-by-day account of what we had achieved, what we built. But this one was something else. Just in case no one has told you today, you will never do it. I'm watching, always watching my girl, and I will be watching when you prove them all wrong. With that, I tucked the letter back in its envelope and handed it to Valen to hold with the others before walking out of the office. Everly, what are you doing? Valen calls as he follows me through the charred remains. Building a village, I tell him. Valen laughs, and I look at him over my shoulder. What? I ask, and he shrugs and shakes his head, untucking the envelope I gave him. He opens it. Build your village, love, he says. I built this place from nothing. I will do it again, I tell him, shoving through the doors and outside. I stop in tracks as I step into the car park. Valen walks up behind me, and he wraps his arms around my chest, pulling me back against him. The letter in his hand opened, yet my gaze was on the hundreds of rogues and pack members that covered every inch of the lawn, shovels, and supplies in hand before a convoy of trucks and machinery pulled into the hotel. I suck in a breath and swallow. Every rogue must be here, and all of Valen's pack. I glance at him over my shoulder. Only this time, it isn't just 4 rogue whores and 3 babies. You built a village, and these are your people. You never have to do anything alone again, Valen whispers, and tears fill my eyes as I stare back at everyone who showed up. Macy and Zoe both stood at the front with shovels in hand. My lip quivers that they would all show up for this place. Valen kisses my cheek and lets me go. My knees shook as I walked toward my village before they gave way from under me. They all suddenly dropped to their knees and bowed their heads. The sight of them became too much, and I broke. Tears fell as I placed my head in my hands and cried. Moments later, I felt small hands touch my neck, and I looked up to see Valerian standing beside me. "Don't cry, Mama. Your village is here to help," he whispers, wiping my tears. He was wearing a high-vis shirt, jeans, and little steel cap boots. "Hey, Everly," Valen calls, and I turn to look at him over my shoulder. Valerian stares at his father when Valen yells out to me. "You'll never do it," he yells out, and I chuckle. I open my mouth to answer him when a chorus rings out through the crowd in unison. "Watch her." The crowd screamed back at him. 2 days later. For 3 hours, I had waited sitting in the council for my petition meeting. My ass was going numb, and this skirt was so tight it was digging into my hips. The cooling in here sucked too, and was making me feel queasy, and when I saw Alpha Nixon walk out of the chambers with a smug smile on his face, my mood soured even more. I stood up, placing my folder on my seat, and moved toward him. My appointment was 3 hours ago. My father comes out and rushes past, heading for the doors before I could even say anything to him. Not even a glance in my direction, yet Nixon was all too happy to approach me. He strolled over in his tailored suit, briefcase, and his black leather shoes. He stopped in front of me, giving me the once-over. "How lovely to see you, Everly. What brings you here?" he asks with a sly smile. My eyes narrow at him as people pushed out the doors behind us, leaving the council chambers and heading out past security. They cast us nervous glances, which set me a little on edge. "You know exactly why I am here," I growl at him. "Oh, nobody told you?" he asks, smiling wickedly. He glances at the receptionist. My brows furrow in confusion at his words. No one told me or notified me to say it wasn't going ahead, so I had no idea what he was talking about. "Your meeting was postponed. We postponed it on compassionate grounds after hearing about your tragedy at the hotel." "What a shame," Alpha Nixon said in a mocking tone. "Compassionate grounds. It was not necessary. I never asked for it to be postponed, and nobody notified me that it had been," I tell him, glancing at the foyer desk, and the woman behind it ducked her head when I turned my glare on her. That woman had stared at me for 3 hours and did not say a goddamn word, just kept saying, "Be patient, ma'am, someone will be right with you." Not to matter. These things can't be helped. "I was coming to see you today. Anyway, I wanted to make you an offer," Nixon says, forcing my attention back to him. I purse my lips and fold my arms across my chest, and scoff at his words. This man had done enough, and I wouldn't accept any offer he ever made. "How much for what is left of that dump?" he asks. "It isn't for sale, and if it was, you would never be able to afford it," I tell him. "Now, don't be rash, Everly. That place is rubble and soot, holds no value." "Then what do you want with it if it holds no value?" "I know exactly what that land is worth, and what it will be worth once I rebuild. Though I should say thank you for burning to the ground." "I have no idea what you're talking about," he says, fiddling with his cufflinks. "Sure you don't, but thank you," I smile. "And why is that?" Nixon chuckles arrogantly, and I lean closer to whisper to him. "Because I just realized how much larger my pack is. You know numbers. That's all you alphas care about. The number of members you have, warriors. Well, I outnumber every pack here, so Alpha, I suggest you fall in line before I make you my Omega bitch," I tell him. "You are asking for war, Everly. How will your father feel going to war against his own daughter?" "That is where you are wrong, Alpha Nixon. In 2 days' time, I will own his pack. Be wise to check your alliances, because I will own you too." I sneer at him, and Nixon laughs. "I am the mayor of the city, or have you forgotten? I am not going anywhere, Everly. I run the city. You are merely a rogue whore that trapped an alpha. Don't you read the headlines?" He chuckles. "Savor your time as Mayor Nixon, because you won't be the city mayor for much longer," I tell him, leaning down and grabbing my handbag and folder. "And why do you think that?" he asks. I shrug. "Reputation is everything in this city, Nixon. I can't fall from grace because I apparently already did. As you said, I am just a rogue whore who trapped an alpha. But don't forget, everyone has skeletons in the closet, and I hear yours is full to the brim with dirty secret and cobwebs. Be sure to watch the 7 o'clock news tonight. I hear you staring in those headlines. I laugh before turning on my heel and walking toward the doors. Alpha Nixon grabs my arm and yanks me back, earning some shocked gasps from a few stragglers leaving still. What have you done? He sneered. I do not know what you're talking about, I tell him, sending him a wink. I shake his hand off before walking out the doors. Sign the petition, Nixon. I am only just getting started, and by the time I am done, your reputation will be lower than any rogue whore, I tell him, shoving through the turnstile and out the doors into the blistering hot sun. My father is waiting by his car and goes to walk over to me, but halts his steps when Nixon comes out a few steps behind me. Ignoring both of them, I climb in my car and send a text to Macy and Zoe to meet me at Zoe's apartment before putting it in reverse. Only when I glance over my shoulder I see Nixon's brand new Jaguar behind me. I slam my foot on the accelerator, hitting it so hard it pushes into the brick barricade in front of it. His horrified face made me chuckle as I wound the window down. I look out my window at his crushed back end. Whoops, I'm sure it will buff right out, I tell him before taking off, cackling like a madwoman. I notice him race toward his car and clutch his hair as he looks at the damage. I rub my dash. Good beastie, good girl, I tell my car. The drive back to the hotel left me sweating, and I was pretty sure I needed to get the aircon regassed. By the time reached the place, I am drenched in sweat. In 2 days, with all of Valen's pack and every rogue in the city, we had stripped the place to the bare brick and scrubbed it down. The entire site was gutted, and contractors were walking around wearing hard hats and taking things inside to the kitchen and restaurant structure. Giant jacks were holding up some of the floors above, while new support beams were put in place. Pulling into the parking spots out front, I see the safety inspector. With a groan, I shrug off my blazer and climb out of the car. I walk toward him, and he goes to open his mouth, no doubt with some complaint, but I pluck the paper from his grip that he was holding up. See you in a month, I tell him. Not bothering to stop, I flip him the finger above my head. I was not in the mood to deal with him. I stroll to the back apartments and up the steps toward my old apartment. I unlock the door and flick the kettle on. Dumping my keys on the fruit bowl, it felt so normal, like home still. Raiding the fridge and pantry, I grab coffee and milk out, yet the moment I opened the coffee canister, my stomach turned violently and had me rushing toward the sink. I hurled my guts up, spewing into the sink, wondering what came over me. Rinsing my mouth, I quickly clean the sink, wondering if I have heat stroke from sitting in the council foyer all day. Once my stomach settled and the kitchen clean, I was about to start making coffees when Macy walked in with Zoe. How did it go? Macy asked, rushing toward the air conditioning panel on the wall and turning it up full blast. Zoe lifts her hair off the back of her neck and stands under the vent in the living room. Gosh, it is hot today, she whines, her skin glistening with a sheen of sweat. Macy walks over to the freezer once done opening the door and pressing her face inside it, trying to cool down while I moved to one of the chairs at the dining table and undo the top button on my skirt. It was postponed, waiting for email on a new date. Also, I may have accidentally reversed into Nixon's shiny new car. I shrug before seeing Macy stealing ice cubes out of the freezer drawer. She pulls her shirt open, dropping them in her bra, and Zoe and I stare at her. What? Cooling my girls down, she says, like it wasn't an odd thing to do. She reaches for more, and Zoe snaps at her. Nope, you best leave my ice tray alone. I know you aren't about to stuff them down your pants, she shrieks, and Macy looks at her appalled by her words before she pops the cubes of ice in her mouth. Not all of us are like you, Miss Hotbox, stuffing frozen vegetables in your pants. Zoe glares at me accusingly for telling Macy, and I giggle. Macy starts making coffee, and I tell them about my interaction with Nixon, but when Macy sets the mug in front of me, I grab it and take a sip before my stomach turns again, and I am rushing for the sink. Coffee comes out of my nose and mouth as I spew. Gagging on the taste, I quickly rinse my mouth and wet my face, trying to cool down. Once I feel slightly better, I stand up and turn to find them both staring at me. Well, your bloody milk must be off, I tell them. Wait, you were in heat, right? Weeks ago, I tell them, shaking my head and grabbing a Pepsi out of the fridge. I swallow it down to rid the rancid taste from my mouth. Macy clears her throat awkwardly, and I glance at her.
What?
$100 says you're knocked up. Nope, we used... I stopped. Did we use protection? She is up the duff, Zoe exclaims and slaps Macy's waiting hand. No, I couldn't be. My heat came and went. In a day. I look at Zoe horrified. How long does a heat last? 3 or 4 days, give or take, and from memory. Yours lasted a night? Not that I am heat cycling you, or anything, she says innocently. See, all the proof right there. You as preggers means either he knocked you first dive into your coochie, or nothing. You're definitely pregnant, Macy laughs. I can't be pregnant. I have the challenge in 2 days. I snap at them, horrified. They glance between each other nervously.
Shit.
I have tests we can check. Maybe your dad will postpone on compassionate grounds for the hotel, Macy offers while Zoe rushes off toward the bathroom. Macy eyes her suspiciously when she comes out with 4 different pregnancy tests she returns with. Why have you got half the chemistry tests? She asks. No reason, she says, shoving them in my hands. Wait, are you and Marcus trying to have another crotch goblin? Macy asks excitedly. No, just in case, Zoe says. And Macy pouts fine. At least I get to be this one's cool auntie, Macy says, rubbing my belly like I am a Buddha, and she can rub some good luck out of it. Please be triplets, or quadruplets, a whole damn litter. She whispers. I slap her hand away. I am not pregnant, I tell her, and she folds her arms. Well, one way to find out. I stalk off to the bathroom. Minutes tick by while I wait for the digital screen to light up and the other 3 that I took as a precaution. Chewing my lips, I glare at them, willing them to be negative and cross my fingers and toes, praying to the moon goddess I'm not. I can't afford to be. I have a hotel to rebuild, a war brewing, a challenge, and a Valerian. Yet as the screen lit up and the timer beeped, I nearly dived into the sink basin where the tests were perched. I grabbed them, examining them.
Wrong, wrong, wrong.
I cry when I hear a knock before the girls barge their way into the small bathroom as I fling the 3rd one back, hitting Macy in the head with it. She cringes but catches it. You jinx me. Unjinx me.
Now,
I demand as she reads the test before fist pumping the air in victory and bouncing on her feet. I'm gonna be an Ani. Again. You owe me shit. I forgot to tell you the bet. She curses. Yet all I could think about was what fucked up timing this was as I sank onto the edge of toilet and put my head in my hands.
come on, Evie.
It's not the end of the world. You won't be alone this time, and Valen is great with Valerian and Zoe says, but her words don't help, so I drown her out as memories of my last pregnancy flood me, and what the hell was I going to do about the challenge? Valen was working back tonight with Marcus, so after I got Valerian from school, I decided to have dinner with Zoe, Macy, and the girls. The kids had fun, and it kind of reminded me of before our lives got so complicated when it was just us against the world. It's comforting knowing that nothing has changed even now with my title. To them, I would always just be Everly, not Luna, not the rogue whore. Here, I was safe to be my normal self and was free to do as I please without judgment or having someone scrutinize me somehow. When the 7 o'clock news came on that night, I sent the kids to play with the Lego in Casey's room. Remote. The news is on, I say, waving my hand at Zoe. She passes me the remote, and I quickly flick the channel over. Since when do you like watching the news? Macy asks, and I race to the sofa and sit in the middle in front of the TV. I like the news when I don't star in it. I may have handed a list of evidence to the media about Nixon and my father this morning, I tell them. What? What did you give them? Zoe screeches excitedly, rushes over, and sits on the other side of me. It was petty, but if they want to talk shit about me, I should be able to have fun returning the favor. I was far from apologetic, even over the one thing that was total bullshit, but then again, it could be true. Either way, it makes for exciting conversations at dinner meetings. I chuckled to myself. He was going to kill me. Oh, this I gotta see, Macy says, snatching the cold bowl of popcorn off the coffee table. Both Zoe and I looked at her questionably. It was the only thing I left out. Getting comfortable on the sofa, we all squeezed on. Zoe is sitting with her legs over my lap and her feet in Macy's lap. Macy sat unblinking, chowing down on cold popcorn from the kids' movie we watched after dinner, shoveling handfuls in her mouth in a very unladylike manner, but a complete Macy manner. When the news anchor comes on and Nixon's photo pops up in the corner, we lean forward eagerly. I purse my lips. They burned my hotel, and I will burn their reputations. The newswoman reports on Nixon's first mate and how she became forsaken. How his wife isn't the mother of his child, but the most damning part to him was that he abandoned his daughter to the forsaken. I even managed to find some old photos of Leah, his mate, and a hospital report of a young woman named Kayla, who was Carter's twin sister, which would push the evidence along. Plus, an accidental photo, and from the awkward angle, it looked like he was picking his nose while sitting in his car outside the Pack Hospital. Man, it was hard getting a hold of hospital footage, but somehow Valen had managed it. The news anchor even said that they would pay for the DNA test if he wanted to prove his innocence. Of course, we all knew that wouldn't happen, only making him look more guilty. The news anchor woman then went on to talk about his hate for rogues, and this may be the reason why that his daughter was technically still one, and his mate had turned forsaken. Sitting back, I smiled smugly. Suck on that, Nixon. Macy was chewing and shoveling popcorn in her mouth so fast, and both her and Zoe's eyes were glued to the TV until Macy started coughing and spluttering, choking on her popcorn when my father's turn was next. Instead of his usual portrait photos, Ava and I had managed to find some old pictures on the Family Link app that he forgot to remove. It was a photo from when we were kids at a dress-up party. My father was wearing one of my mother's mini dresses and fishnet stockings, with a wig and high heel boots. We sent 3 photos to them. One with him in a wig, all glammed up as a woman, and another without the wig, revealing that it was definitely my father. Because the photo was of him in our bathroom putting on red lipstick. And the last image was him bending over drunk, his nuts hanging out since he was also wearing my mother's lace knickers. There was absolutely nothing wrong with the photos, but I knew my father wouldn't see it that way, especially when the news anchor told the city that he was secretly a cross-dresser and that his 2 daughters confirmed it. I snicker, and Zoe snorts. I smack Macy's back, and she sucks in a lungful of air. We all burst out laughing, knowing how horrified my father would be over this. Though we saw nothing wrong with it, this would definitely taint my father's conservative front he puts up. Man, I wish I could wear heels that high. Any more than an inch, and I can't walk straight. Macy laughs. There is so much I could say to that comment, I tell her, and she glares at me. I snickered at her outraged face.
Damn.
Papa John got some nice legs on him. A bit hairy, but look at the muscular thighs, Zoe says, and I elbow her, a little grossed out she was checking out my father. Oh my god. I bet your father had a heart attack seeing this pop up on the news. Macy chuckled. You know there will be backlash, Zoe says, and I shrug. What are they going to do? Accuse me of lying about who Valerian's father is? It's obvious whose child he is by the eyes, and I am pretty sure there isn't one article that doesn't taint me poorly. Sticks and stones, I tell them. Valen starts blowing up my phone. He had no idea what I wanted the footage for, and I am sure he thought I would try to blackmail Nixon with it, not hand it to the media. With a groan, I get up. I knew I had to face my mate, and I'm sure he would have plenty to say about it. Macy also had to leave, so we both bundled the kids up in our cars, and I waved as she left. Driving home, I was still laughing to myself. Valerian kept asking why, but I would just shake my head. Pulling up in the car park, Valerian rushes ahead to the glass doors and is greeted by the doorman. I threw my keys to the valet, though as I retrieved my handbag from the trunk and the few groceries I had stopped and grabbed on the way home, I jumped when I was grabbed and yanked away from the door. My bags drop, and I turn to see who it is, only to find myself glaring up at my father. What the fuck do you think you're doing? He growled at me. Well, I was getting groceries from my car. I snarl back, picking up the spilled oranges. My father crouches down and starts helping me rebag everything. He gasps while I chase a runaway apple when he picks up my handbag. I snatch my bag off him and the pregnancy test out of his hand. You're pregnant? He asks, looming over me.